All right then, welcome back everybody, thank you. Now we're going to go on to the second part of our tech debate, which I'm so looking forward to very much. So it's we're going to move on, believe it or not, it's not going to be the same as before. We're now going to move on to other sections of the technology discussion. So, so I guess you know everybody now. We introduced everybody the first time around. Let's have lots of questions from the floor as well. So the opportunity, we have our team with the roving microphones around as well. Chucky is somewhere. So okay, without further ado then, let's crack on with the tech debate. Here's our team, and this time we're going to look more at building a business case, delivering value, and empowering the stakeholders, such as yourselves and all your other colleagues. And we mentioned it in the first session as well. So let's kick off then. So this time round we are building a business case. So again, I'll go around all the team here and I'll ask their different opinions of it, definitions of it. So I'll start over at this side. So Giovanni, if you want to start, so what's your definition of a business case, and what are you seeing from the business world in terms of what do they want and so on?
Yeah, so from our perspective, when we're talking about building a business case, we've seen metrics that basically people are trying to figure it out, to follow. That's the basic solution where people are trying to find, am I going to meet this particular target? Am I going to meet this particular value? That's the first starting point where we go. But I think personally, what we've seen in our company is that when we're trying to build a business case, the data is the most important part, right? So, and I think that starts with everyone in this room. So, you are the most experts in the data that you currently have, and you are the ones that will be able to get the most out of it. And that's crucial to be able to say, is this something worthwhile pursuing? Is this something that, which metrics do we want to really achieve? I think that's crucial for you to know your data well and work with your service partner whenever trying to create that. Like even before establishing, do you really want to buy something? Way before that, know your metrics, know your data. That will be really crucial.
Okay, you made a very good point. You say know what it is you want to achieve. Yeah. So, which kind of comes back to some of the things we were saying earlier. Rich, if I could start. Yeah, same with me. I know I've spoken to you all, and I'll ask you all this question, but Rich, I'll ask you this time. IT, silver bullet, yes or no?
As in silver bullet, as in serum, or
solves everything. Well, yeah, solves everything. Just all your problems gone. Yeah. Work with you. 2 months later, all my problems are little ones.
I mean, IT is just obviously a part of it. They're obviously part of the decisioning process. I think we're going back to that was a bit of a boom question, that one. Sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah. So just going back to the actual building the business case aspects of it, I think that first of all, just understand the KPIs, the metrics that you want to improve. Just identify that. Is that user performance? Is that financial performance? Is that the delivery of your credit policies through process to deliver these KPIs that you want to deliver into your business, into your operations, your organisation. So once you've done that and you identify that is justifies maybe having a discussion with a provider, technology partner. We look at this in sort of a very simple 4-box matrix that we use at Invivo, and that is data. So absolutely spot on. Look at your data landscape. Look at all the different data points that you want to integrate with, and the data that you need to drive your operations. Process. What are the processes? How can we automate those? Where can we generate consistency and flow across all of our processes. Users, which we call workspaces, so what am I serving to my users, what am I asking them to do, what are the priorities that we need them to perform if I can't automate it, and then insights. And again, that loops you back around to your KPIs. How do I drive continual improvements across my operations to use my KPIs? So, in answer to your question, Mark, IT, yeah, absolutely. But I think building a business case that is, something that you can take to the business and say, these are the improvements, these are the financial gains that we can create, and you present that.
Lovely, thank you for that. Sorry to give you a curveball there, all right?
Thank
I'm
you.
sure I'll pay for it later with a beer or something, but thank you for that. Okay. So if I could ask you, staying on the business case question, who is asking for the business case, or who's providing them from the businesses? Who is doing it? Which particular area of your clients? You were sitting on the mic.
I'll take that. Business cases, it does vary per company. Each and every one of you here have individual reasons why you're going to do something, right? Your process could be all about standardization. That could be the one thing that you're looking for. That case, the business case that we have to build has to stay in line with that. If you're already standardized the process and you're looking to have efficiency, we need to make sure that the business case is around efficiency gain, productivity gains, reduce time, effort spent on manual tasks. So it has to always be about what's most important to the client. If the client is all about headcount reduction, for example, we need to make sure that we build a business case towards that. But the most important thing is to understand, like I said, really what the client is looking for and be able to differentiate between the kind of hard benefits and then the soft benefits. Because we want to reduce the cost, we want to improve efficiency, we want to increase standardization. But what does that actually really mean? Does that mean that if you cut down the team by half, you'll be able to do half the work? But be able to quantify that and actually give tangible reasons why the business case stacks up. Because you could present the numbers, which is really, really important. Let's see, everyone wants to see if you can reduce the SO by 5 days. What does that actually really mean in terms of the numbers they see it for the bottom line, right? So I think the business case presentation has to be tailored to whoever owns the budget and who we're presenting to. So it's all about presentation to a CFO. He has to be all around the CFO numbers, the metrics that make sense for a CFO, metrics that make sense for a shared service director or head of shared service or CTO or CIO. I think business case, we all have models that we work to present our business cases, but we have to tailor it to who we're presenting to.
Thank you very much. Go over this side. Daniel, you've got the microphone. Is it often the case that companies come to you, carrying on from what Steve was saying there, and they think this is what they want, right? They want to standardise or reduce headcount or whatever area, and they end up actually somewhere else. Is that because they think they want to go that way, but through your collective kind of, like you said, know your customer, and you probably know what they want more than they do, because you can draw on tons of examples from the past, right? Have you had examples where they say this is what we want, but actually they end up over here? Have you noticed that?
Yes, definitely. There are cases where it's quite clear cut what the problem is that we need to solve. For example, if we get approached right at the moment for invoice delivery, e-invoicing, compliance, especially in Germany, because for incoming invoices it becomes mandatory at the beginning of next year, and many companies are already thinking about compliance and how to solve this for outgoing invoices, for invoice delivery as well, and this will be in 2027. So that's quite clear cut. And it's very often the case that these kind of customers just want to talk about the solution. We still give them the whole picture of what's in there for them, the whole AR cycle and full automation. And they're like, yeah, that sounds good, but invoice delivery, if I don't do this and if I don't take care of this right now, I'm going to be in trouble and I'm going to get problems with the tax authorities. But when it comes to automation of, let's say, collections of credit or cash application, it sometimes happens that the focus shifts when they actually think, okay, I just want to follow up the invoices. And then figure out, hang on, after the first meeting and after analyzing and after the first discussions, and then they figure out, hang on, my problem is not only collections, getting paid, it's also cash allocation. I just don't have a good overview of my cash flow. I just don't know what's already paid, so I need to get this into account as well. I need to address this as well. And then all of a sudden the scope widens, and it's about basically two areas: collections management and cash application. So that actually happens. I would like to add one thing very briefly to what you just said, because you're absolutely right. This is really something we come across quite often. It's very, very important for a business case to really identify who is involved, who has which role. For example, for a business case, how it's structured, what's in there, what the KPIs are. It is very different to who actually pays for the solution. Is it the business, or is it, for example, IT? They might want to have totally different contents and totally different KPIs in a business case. So it's not just only important to identify what is the problem, where is the pain, but also who is involved, who has which role, what is important to them. And in the end, it might take a while actually to get to a proper business case. But if it's a good one, and if it addresses the right processes, the right pains, and also the right stakeholders, it's a very powerful tool.
A lot of that comes from, as we've been saying through the course of today, that the operational people need to be involved in this, right? Because they're the ones who actually know. As you said, you were saying about CFOs and so on, and their treasury, their views are very different, IT's views are very different, right? This has to be driven from these guys, isn't it really? Because they're the ones who are actually going to be working these implementations if and when they take place. Yeah. Thank you for that. Following on for that, a question for Tom and Simon, right? So you can probably comment on this. Some things you've been saying led me to ask about, in terms of business cases, do it yourself or work with one of you guys? And the example I'd like to use, where I think a lot of companies, at the end of the last session we started talking about invoice portals, and particularly the invoice portal where we've now got these VAT regulations. So every invoice has to go through a country back portal, then perhaps through a customer portal, and then to the customer, right? And this is now in how many countries in Europe? Three in Europe, but it's growing every month, every quarter now, isn't it? Yeah. So on that point, then I know a lot of companies have kind of said, yeah, we can do that, it's no problem. So, but generally, right, do it yourself or work with you guys? What in terms of business case, what would you say?
So I think what I've learned, having come from the corporate side for about 20 years and then into services and consulting, and now working for a fintech, what I've learned is that a fintech company is maybe not the best company to decide what's good for many different types of corporations out in the market. So for sure, I resonate that everybody should listen to the customer. But this is one of the reasons why we're sponsoring, a kind of generic business case. So if anyone of you want to get behind what we're doing, if we can decide on the key specific variables that should be measured going forward, I think it has a lot to do with, how AI enables that for the future, right? So I'll give you just one quick example, and then tune in tomorrow if you want to hear some more. But we're shifting gears, and we're going to, with the help of Hackett, we're working with the Hackett group to help us look at these metrics. And our feeling is, we're sometimes missing the boat with all of the AI opportunities that are out there. I'll give you one example, deductions. So what is the most important way of measuring or managing a KPI in the deduction space? And everything that we read and hear about, it's about cycle time, right? How long does it take you? But why is that so important? Because the longer the cycle time, the more dissatisfaction your customers have from something that's a finance process. And nobody likes that. So what we're working on is to look at something called customer dissatisfaction in credit. which is, let's look at the drivers of why deductions take so long to resolve, and let's work with the customers on a metric that can actually drive customers to be happier and more satisfied by looking at where they're dissatisfied, not looking at an NPS score that measures all kinds of other things like product and price, and that is not really specific to the finance process. So this is one of those metrics that we're taking cycle time as a piece of it, but there's more. There's how often do you order, how many times is your invoice incorrect, how many times do you change your order? You know, it's a give and take on both sides, but for sure with all this AI enablement out there, we should be able to, you know, identify some of these drivers using AI and really uncover and peel back the onion to see where are these problems with disputes coming. And I can mention the same thing for credit. You know, it's all about cycle time, but really it's not. It's about measuring bad debt. But really bad debt is a bunch of other stuff. So we should start measuring, you know, macroeconomic risk is higher now than it's ever been. Why? Because of war and blah, blah, blah. We should start measuring those things as a reason to put in a better KPI for credit, in the credit, you know, scoring that we do. And that's, I think those two things together can also work with, you know, making customers more satisfied. If you give them credit limits that are more relevant and fair, then I think your customers will be happier. And I haven't seen many business cases out there when clients come to us that looks at quantifying customer satisfaction or dissatisfaction. So I think things need to change a little bit, and you know, we need to kind of work with our clients to educate them. And we have the help of Hackett, we have the help of IMD, which I mentioned. We're coming out with a research project there. So I think it's going to be a more holistic way of looking at it, and we're going to put that in the platform.
Okay, thank you for that. Simon, do you want to add to that?
What a great time to come into this debate. Right at the very end, absolutely everything, and I, you know, just echo the points people have made. I think data points are really, really important. I'll try and mention a couple of things out of this speak. I think, for me, very simply, it's a business case. So it involves the business, not a team or department, it's the business. And sometimes that's overlooked. Sometimes you don't take into account what the implications might be on the second or third impact. So understand the business case. And the second piece, the methodology that, and I take the point around, are we best placed to advise our customers? So we employ and advise our prospective customers using the Moscow method, so must have, should have, could have, and won't have. Starting there by involving the business and involving those clear set of objectives, the Moscow method works really well because it allows you then just to put in certain places these things that, you know, we absolutely need to have this, and we don't need to have that, we should have that. So it just allows you to frame that initial starting point, because that starting point is really clear. If you don't start with the right ingredients or the right teams or the right overview, you can then drift off down a rabbit hole somewhere, and that can lead to delays and lead for someone to come in like an IT or a finance department or VAT department. You haven't thought about me, get stuck to that, or a change of C-level, stuff like that. So certainly involve the business in the business case, and the Moscow method is found is very, very productive.
That's a great point, and that comes back to what we were saying in the earlier session about when we're talking about stakeholders. It's everywhere, isn't it? It's not just one area, one. And you said your business, right? And everybody benefits at the end, isn't it? So thank you for that. Not forgotten yet, all right? Got there. and from your point of view, and from my DSO manager, what are you seeing in terms of business cases and so on, right? And you know, what's bringing people to you, right? And what's kind of working from your perspective?
I feel like everything has been said already. I mean,
okay, next question.
Without repeating what has been mentioned already, I think one element also interesting for our customers is ROI. It's important when they come to us, they say, okay, can we build an ROI that we're going to show to our executive? Can we, right from the go live, see already some return of investment? And we, at least for my DSO, and I think also for a couple of our panelists here, we can see that clients are very happy with what we provide to them. They go to their respective executive, they show the work that we have done, the brainstorming that we have shown them, and also the other cases that we have handled, clients from their same sector, same industries, and they can go back with those tangible data to show to their management, and that's an added value in terms of taking the decision to work with one of our solutions.
It's all about that data. Thank you. All right. On to the next question. And Richard, I'm going to ask you this, right? And I'm not going to change anything, I'm not going to vary anything, I promise. Right? Time to value, from your perspective, what does it look like?
I was just going to call up my man there, because I think absolutely what he said earlier, by the way, was spot on about his Moscow methods. Yeah, because just always keep relating back to what you're trying to deliver and make sure that what's really important is getting done first. So yeah, good call out. So the question again, time to value, yeah.
What's your favourite colour? Oh no, sorry, time to value.
Yeah, time to value. Yeah, we talked about obviously building a business case, really leaning into your KPIs. But listen, as a technology provider or providers, we have to reduce the barriers to entry. We have to make it easy for you guys to be able to get access to the technologies that we offer you, so that you can prove out, without having a huge amount of investment, to prove that actually technology is going to help you achieve your objectives. So, as a provider, it's something that we take very seriously, and it's something that we're working really hard towards, is almost making that a zero risk for you to be able to get technology, try it, put in your processes, configure it in the way that you want to use it, and prove that it works. It's not really a proof of concept, it's like just prove that you can make these processes better. And I think that's something that we take really, really seriously, and something that we're putting a lot of time and effort into, is putting the technology into the hands of you, and equally putting that technology into the hands of your customers as well. So something we're doing is looking at how we can actually put our technology into the hands of your customers as well, so that you can improve the way you're connected to them, the way that you're communicating with them, and to really speed up that flow of information that's flowing between you and your ecosystem of customers. So it's a big thing for us, and I think that we should all be working really hard towards de-risking you and giving you the tools that you need to be able to prove out that, hey, with technology, we can really make a difference here.
Thank you very much. Arthur, same question. Time to value, from your perspective, what does it look like?
At least for my DSO, we, just like what Richard said, we try to speed up the process. A lot of clients, when they come to us, they've been dragging the issue for quite a time, so they want a fast implementation. Thanks to AI and other machine learning, we can analyze their data as soon as we receive it. It takes us way less time than before. We can identify the errors, go back to the client, solve all the structures of data that we need to receive in order to function. This is where we see the biggest value. That's why we are able to do implementation, depending on the sector, but within 3 weeks we are able to implement our solution and see the result right away after go live.
Yeah, that's important, and that's the bit I'm interested in exploring, the time to value. It can be literally done in a matter of weeks, right, rather than perhaps a longer period of time. Maybe there's been historically thought that it's going to take a long time to get these things rocking and rolling. Yeah? So, okay, thank you. So I'll come back over to the other side. Daniel, from your perspective, you kind of cover all the aspects of O2C and AP as well, don't you, I suppose, as well, right? So looking at it, from your experience, what's the definition of sort of time to value from your perspective?
I would definitely go in the direction of what Richard just said. It's about, we put a lot of emphasis on usability, because the best solution doesn't generate much value if no one's actually using it. So it is very important to us that it is usable also by people who are not using it on a day-to-day business. Because that brings us back to what we discussed before, breaking down silos, breaking down barriers. It's important that it's intuitive, that the different solutions resemble each other, that you don't have different interfaces for every solution. We've done this with a simple drop-down menu, and the dashboards always look the same. It doesn't matter if it's an AP or AR solution. So it's quite recognizable. And the best feedback we can get is if our customers tell us, my people really like to operate the solution. And it's even more people, also the sales people, they are happy when they get a task or when they have to use the solution, they are also happy using it. because that generates a real value. That's when the users are happy to use it, when they want to do reports, when they are happy to get also insights from the solution. So that is very important, and this is also, you just mentioned that we're also doing AP solutions where we get huge synergies. And once there is a solution, let's say on AP side in place, and the usability and the user friendliness and the results the solution creates, of course they spread around, also to the other side, to the accounts receivable side. And this is where really across departments, across solutions, even across payable and receivable accounts, a huge benefit arises for our customers then.
Thank you. So carrying on from that, and we talk about time to value and what does it look like. If I can ask you this time, I said this morning that an awful lot of projects don't succeed. Right? Is that because the expectations are too high? The business cases are perhaps flawed and so on, right? So, from your opinion, why do you think sometimes things are not quite what they're meant to be?
Yeah, so from my experience, what I've seen is, I think one of the main issues is the perception of value, right? Because when we're talking about value, if we do not have a specific on paper value that we want to achieve, then everything comes down to a perception. Is it bringing me value or not? At HighRadius, what we try to do on every single implementation is to have an agreement with the client on both the operational and the strategic metric that we want to achieve. And then from day one of go live, we are measuring against those. Because when we're talking about values, some values are achievable right from the day one, and some will only be able to be measured 3 months, 6 months, right? If we're talking about DSO, nothing is like days. It takes some time to see those changes reflected in the metric. But when the agreement is done from day one and we already know what we want to achieve, especially in the operational level, so how much of percentage of items do we want to automate? How much this is measurable? When we have that very clear, then I think at the start and then at the start of the steady state, people will definitely know for sure that they are achieving the values that we promised, rather than just a perception. And I think that makes the total difference between a successful implementation or not.
And would you say, some, because most people come to, I want to work with you guys, and I want all my overdue to be zero by the end of this year, right? That's what we want to happen, right? Is it? No, go on.
I'll argue, Mark, but you can't have zero overages. That's basically because you're probably too stringent on your credit policy. You're probably not giving enough credit to customers. The whole point of credit is it works with sales, and sales needs to grow because your companies need to grow. So there has to be a balance between overdues and credit. Sorry, mate.
No, it's a very valid point, but I'm saying that we're talking about the expectations and so on, right? So you say, I don't want everything to go away, and then you say, well, your projects failed because it didn't happen, right? But of course you're right. It's and that's where the technology and the visibility comes in, because you can make informed decisions, can't you? That's the whole point of it, isn't it? Is working with all of you and all the technologies that you offer, to be able to see all these things. We're talking about stakeholder managers, and it's everybody in the business. So of course, you can have zero overdue, but that also equals no customers, right? But you're right. It's meant to be an organic thing. It's a professional decision. We're in the risk business at the end of the day, aren't we? So you're right. Thank you, Gio. First, we'll come over to this side then, and we explore that a bit more. And I just want to stay with this kind of negative side of it, because it's a fact, isn't it? That so many projects don't necessarily hit what they're supposed to hit. And I think it's important, that we share this together. Because we could just stand here and say everything is sweetness and light, work with all of us, and all your problems are little ones, right? But it's not the case. There are the expectations of something, and it doesn't always according to the customer, it doesn't always work out, right? So if I can ask you two as well from your side, what do you think is from the business case, and what does it look like, and all this? Why do they not always necessarily hit where they should hit?
Is it have the objectives with the realistic objectives? And number one, are they going to try and attain the impossible, as in zero outstanding, which you won't? I think it's the time to value piece. There's like credit scorecard management. There used to be the champion challenger strategy. You adopt, you put a new credit policy in, you champion challenger, and sometimes that concept can work here. It does involve perhaps a very small POC, but I think time to value, letting your prospects or the customers know what it looks like. And also, to build on a point earlier, so much of it is change management. You can have the best business case, the best time to value, you implement it, and all the staff want to use it. So part of that time to value piece is proving, like, this is physical, this is what it looks like. Adopt maybe a champion challenger approach to say, well, this is what we're doing, this is what we're trying to champion. And also to get people to use the product to understand what it looks like and give their feedback on it. I think those three parts will really help the time to value piece.
Yeah, my contribution is that I think many companies out there are expecting that a new technology will take forever to implement, but things have changed. Not every new technology is SAP that takes months to implement. Our solutions of the teams that are up here, are very quick to implement. I think the average across the board, because I've worked with a lot of you, is probably about 12 weeks to implement. And again, the smaller you go, the more you get to become familiar with the tool, look at a proof of concept, and then extend it out to more of your scope. I think that's a quicker way to get the results you need. But I'm amazed that so many companies think that the time to value is like what it was 6, 7, 8 years ago. AI has flipped that, and everything is so much quicker, and going forward in the future, it's going to get even more quicker. So when I get clients to come to me, it's kind of like they're in this old time frame that, this is going to take months for us to evaluate. We could probably implement our tool across our whole company in half the time it'll take them just to decide whether they want the tool. That's crazy.
Yeah, and Richard, I might come back to you again on that. I know from discussions we've had, all of you, preparing for this and other discussions we've had, I know you're saying something from your perspective sometimes that it's quite possible to get things up and running in days or in a very short period of time.
Yeah, for sure. Where you're looking to prove something out, and that might be around your user engagement, something where projects can fail because users hate the product. They don't like using it, and you've got to really win over your users, and you want productive, happy users. So being able to put that product into the hands of your users and getting that feedback loop is really, really important. Because if you win your users, then you're winning, and then you will drive those operational improvements. So yeah, you can prove this out very, very quickly. There are tools, I'm not going to name them, in Vivo, that
Shameless.
Yeah, sorry.
Shameless.
And everyone else.
And everyone. Other brands are available.
Yeah, of course. What's your one? Imagine as well, right? But there are tools out there now where you can just basically get that instant, almost like that CRM experience now. Drop the data in, shape the data into your platform, build your workspace, build your work queues, let's get going. That's really how this market's going to grow. This is how you are going to get the tools that you need. Is again, as sort of reference back to this, is by removing those barriers to entry. That's our job.
Nice one. Thanks very much. On to the next question then. Arthur, I'll start with you this time. So our point here is empowering the customer and stakeholders. So when we're talking about customers, who are we talking about? Internal or external?
Both.
Is the right answer. Okay.
Should I just talk with the customer or both? Customer or
We
stakeholder?
can extend that, yeah. So it is. I think that's, as you said, it's the internal, as we've been talking about, and also who you're selling to, who these guys are selling to, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the stakeholders as well. Right. So you want to embellish that for us a little bit.
So if I start from the stakeholders side, the executive often do not have consolidated view on the whole entities. The good thing with our solutions is that we provide those data. We want to get you guys out of Excel, a lot of pivot tables just to collect all the data. We try to segment your whole ledger into how you want to see it, or criteria that are important for our stakeholders. If they would like to see it based on typology of client, based on activities, sectors, we really provide them the report that credit management in general provide, but specific reports to avoid them doing this type of tasks. On the customer level, I mentioned previously transparency. So we have one platform where everybody in the company is involved, but also the client have an interactive page where they can interact with us if they have to declare a dispute, if they have to make a payment, all the data that they want to provide. They can also see the progress of information that they have provided to us. So it's whole transparent, providing the data in and out. And since we all see the same data, it's easy for us to process those information and therefore increase the customer and also ourselves as the provider or the client that we provide the information for. The satisfaction overall is like a 360.
Thank you for that. Seymour, to carry on that conversation, and at the risk of perhaps repeating what I was saying before, when you're talking to prospects, should we say, are you kind of advising them, don't forget these stakeholders in the decision-making process? Is that a thing? Is that a regular thing?
Yeah, every conversation is different, right? Some customers have, again, also depends on the size of the company. Typically, a mid-sized company would have one finance director who really oversees everything. So the conversation is a lot easier because they have direct oversight over that. Most of you in the room here in the shared service, so it's typically you and then the head of the shared service, who reports to the CFO, who reports to someone else usually. So it tends to depend on the customer basis who you're speaking to. I think very upfront you want to understand what's the buying cycle. Because some of you in the room have never bought software. So how do you do this, right? And what's the budget? Oh, it's IT. Or probably not. It's actually business. Or actually, new CFO's coming for the budget now. So we have to always make sure that we're actually educating you to make sure you understand actually this is how we typically sell software, and this is the steps that you typically have to take. If the legal team have to get involved, we want to speak to IT early, so kind of people get involved in the project. What are you thinking about that? But we want to make sure that you're informed about that because that reduces our sales cycle. We don't want to spend 9 months speaking to you guys to find out that that's
crack on with it as well.
Yeah, so we want to give you that budget information up front. But how can I recall your IT right now? If possible, can I recall your project team? Can I recall your users? Once everyone's bought in, it's a much easier stuff to do.
And I'll carry that on. I'll come over the other side. But Simon, may I ask you this time, from a multinational shared service centre point of view, pretty well all these guys are representing and carrying on from what Stephen was saying. It's hard enough talking to one entity. Is it this guy? Is it this guy? Is it this person? This person? This one? How do you do that when you're talking to a multinational shared service centre? Like in my case, I was responsible for 15 countries. Right? So how do you get? I mean, that's a lot of stakeholders. How does that work? And in your experience, how do you win those?
Hello. First of all, thanks, Mark. Great question. Not loaded at all.
That's what I'm here for.
No, I think you need to the steering group. I think the biggest thing about empowering your customers and stakeholders is communication. If you're communicating over such a large group of individual opcos or individual entities, you need that stakeholder team, you need that steering group team together, a clear comms strategy. Because your customers, internal and external, and stakeholders will sing your praises or not sing your praises, as the case may be. So there shouldn't be any shocks around that. There should be a clearly defined comms plan around such a big project, covering such large entities, as you say, from a shared service centre perspective. So the comms piece, as well as delivering the technology, how are you delivering it, how are you communicating that, and make sure that if something is coming up that's going to put a little bump in the road, everyone's aware of it. There should be no shocks.
And Tom, you mentioned earlier about we very rarely do satisfaction surveys. Right? So if we're talking about the customer now, the people that we sell to, how do we define that? what is a satisfied customer, as in people receiving our invoices and all that, that kind of thing. How would you measure that?
Yeah, it's not an easy thing to recreate, I would say, but for sure, we need to work off of a base, right? So we can come up with crazy ideas, and if we don't have a baseline and there's no survey to say this is what the average company does, then we're kind of lost in the sauce. We don't really have the real comparison set up to be successful. So I think we need to drive off of the stuff we've been using, like in my example with disputes and deductions. It's not about cycle time, it's about customer dissatisfaction with the finance process or the credit or the invoicing or whatever the drivers are for that. So if we drive off of these things that people understand and then work with them to add that value and to show them what the metric looks like with our capabilities and our AI enablement, then I think over time we can get the customer to a place where that will help them understand their process better, because this KPI framework is key. But you can't do it on your own as a fintech. That's why we're getting other people in the industry that are experts at that to establish those benchmarks and explain it and educate people, and that's kind of how we're moving forward with that. But we've got to drive off the base that we have and improve it and make it better, and show how AI is enabling this new approach for you to have better working capital, better customer satisfaction, less costs.
And I know I'm perhaps going a little bit off script again, but you're coming up with some great points. You can kind of give me other ideas for questions, and it's an open question to anybody. Fingers on buzzers, first one to answer. But as part of the business case, kind of going full circle, we've got a couple of minutes to go, but going back to the business case, how many business cases include customer satisfaction surveys? You're talking about deductions and on-time invoices and all that stuff. It's open to anybody to ask that. So, in your knowledge, do you know if actually going to the customers and and that's part of the business case? Has anybody come across that? Or if not, I'm going to copyright it. Damn good idea.
So my experience is that we're better off picking partners to help us with that, because we're good at tech and implementing tech and get it to work the right way, and we have the capability of gathering that information and managing the data and making it available. But that's a change management project. So this is why at Magic we're looking at a partnership structure and trying to get our partners to work on the front end of that with change management, project management, KPI framework, to try to enable that, because we're not going to be that successful having come from the buy side for 20 years. It's going to be a hard sell. So we need a partner.
So you work with the H company? Yes. You're referring to it?
Yeah, a couple of them, not just one.
Okay. Anybody want to add into that, Rich?
We should be asking that question. Customer satisfaction is a massive part of what you guys do. That whole end-to-end, from sales to credit, that is a 360-degree engagement with the customer. It's not just about the sales engagement, it's about the engagement with back office and middle office. Should be measuring that, we should be asking that, we should be asking customers, are we great to work with? Do you enjoy working with us as an organisation? Yeah, absolutely, we should be asking that question.
And I ask it, and you kind of prompted it through the discussion. I used to work for TNT, and so this was a freight industry and it was notorious for getting invoices wrong. It was high volume, low value, millions of invoices every day. And I remember going to see customers with a big pile of our invoices and saying, I am fed up working for TNT. I have no confidence in a single invoice that I had to go through everything line by line. So I do. I think maybe it is something worthwhile, right? So okay, we're down literally to the last minute or so now. Does anybody want to add anything in conclusion, or are we good?
One other comment. Recently, I've been talking to some payables companies, right? Because of all of this e-invoicing activity in Europe, and other than taking over, like some of the companies in the space up here are actually going quite actively into payables. But we're all partnering with payables companies that understand the file formats of the e-invoicing criteria that's coming out country by country by country, and using their certifications to get certified to be able to process that data. which is key for us to enable us to ingest all of those information about what has been paid. That would never have happened 5 years ago.
These VAT modules are going to be a real driver for this communication.
It's a partnering in a different way,
yes,
right?
but it's something that's going to have to happen, isn't it? So we're out of time, gentlemen. Thank you so much. I think to wrap up, I was trying to think that. Oh no! Oh, we have question from the floor. Chucky. Yeah. Oh, we have questions. Yeah.
Okay, my question is on data quality, which kind of half back to the first session. So Simon talked about trying to get the sales guys to use our reports, and in my experience, they're always pushing back and saying it's not including disputes, or it's not including rebates. It's already a challenge. But regarding disputes, how do we differentiate between the annoying customer who just pays 60% and deducts 40% on a regular basis? So what I call customer playing games from a valid dispute. How do we sort out, go through that?
But I think that when you start employing workflows and segmentation, in any group of customers, in any standard distribution of data, the majority of people sit in the middle and they perform well. The minute you put them into that group, you see your outliers, and someone like that particular customer will be identified very, very quickly, and then you just, it's a case of ring fencing and triaging off into a different workflow. Yes, you perhaps spend more time to re-educate, but you can identify them a lot quicker. And for those customers as well, through sort of scheduled reporting, through deciphering ledgers by salespersons, for example, getting that scheduled and sent out directly to the salesperson. Here's your customer list, here's your ledger, here's your worst, here's your best customers. Using that information, as we mentioned earlier, for commercial negotiations, but putting salespeople against salespeople within the own company, say, well, this customer group's better than that customer group. The whole automation segmentation piece allows you to identify those customers very, very quickly and take legal action.
Yeah, and for sure, a data-driven discussion will be a better discussion with a customer than a non-data-driven discussion. And that's where, digital assistants can go out and get that data. Where are you really going to waste the time with somebody in your shop to actually, go into all of those databases and pull out all of the proof of the 15 excuses that you get week after week, day after day? Probably not. You shouldn't be spending your money that way, but you could use a digital assistant to do that. And if they're looking at the right data set, it keeps them busy, right? You get return on investment that way.
Yeah, just to add to that, I know we discussed that on the break, didn't we? First things first is, in our tool, for example, we want to make sure we can score every customer in a risk category. So that customer will just typically wants to, as we call it, tip the piss and just not pay on time. That would be an extreme risk customer for us, right? And again, all of you guys will have your collection strategies, your collection methodologies. The collection strategy now, against that customer who's got high risk, perhaps that can unlock the blocking of potential orders. So you're informing your sales guys that, guys, no more orders from this customer because customer just tends to do this way. And that's where the AI comes in, right? We don't talk about AI on the stage here, but the AI is actually saying that over the last 3 months, this particular customer always short pays for X reason. We just predict that we're going to do it again in this way in the next 6 months, right? And by predicting that, it allows you to perform proactive decisions, not reactive, proactive, to avoid that happening next month, right? So that means blocking the order or reducing the credit limit. That's where the automation workflow helps.
Thank you. You had another question, Esther?
I have a lot of them. So, referring back to the previous session then, question, how can you motivate customers to use portals if it's not required or supported by your local legislation?
You guys are quite big on these invoice portals and stuff,
Yeah, so I think in the end, when we're talking about portals, there is a good way to use them in the end. We can get the most information out of them. So it will depend on the way that it's been worked on. So that's how we motivate people to use the portal. So if we are able to prove how much valuable data we are able to extract from them, and how we can use that data with the information we already know from the different customers to be able to better predict with the data and use that data into our favor. So I think that's something that we can can leverage.
Anybody want to add to that? Anyway.
In our experience, it is a big asset for our customers. The more information you can provide. We also have a order management solution, so we can include the orders, the packaging slips, the delivery notes, whatever in there. And there are many questions where the customer on their side are just not sure who is dealing with the order. I mean, they are not always perfectly organized, but they ask for the invoice. They ask where's my delivery. And if this is all in the portal, and if they know about this, then of course to them it is much easier. They're always sending an email and asking, where is my delivery? It's about also, I'd say, for our customers to educate their customers and really tell them what's in it for them. Because this, of course, is something that our customers with their customers can do best. To tell them, look, we've got this new customer portal here. It provides you a lot of information, not just the invoices. For example, there are also your latest payments in there. So you know exactly when you paid us the last time. There are account statements in there whatsoever. And we then experience, if this is done really well by our customers, we then experience a high adoption rate because their customers realize what's actually in there and how it makes their life easier.
Thank you. Next question.
Next question.
So you want to add? Sorry.
We go the other way around. We do not encourage our customers to use portals because we believe that we have a comprehensive platform where we can integrate all the connectors, including information from the portals. Every data that has been commented on a single invoice, we can retrieve it into the platform. So by connecting only to one platform, we have all the finance data, insurance data, portal information, who has commented what status they put. So we really would like to encourage our customers to work on one platform where everything will be centralized. So they don't have to connect to the 5, 6, 7 portals that they need to connect on a daily basis.
Answer to your previous question, by the way, you need an event log. You need to log every single change in the new event log, and then that will give you data to run your analytics against to identify which customers are, as you rightly put, not being truthful with you. So the event log. The answer to that question, we're slightly different to that. We just put a version of the software into the hands of your customers. So your customers can use the same technology that you can, which means that you can all communicate, data share, and you're just giving them added value. So, not necessarily, it's just a different approach. It's an approach that we take, we see it as a network. So we're just looking to connect you to your customers and giving them the tools to be able to communicate with you on a real-time and easy basis.
Take one more question, then the other questions we'll put through the app so everybody can share them, yeah? Just one last one.
Okay, I'll try to answer it. Well, I have a very nice compliment for you guys, actually, so I'd like to read that out to you. It's from Paulo, just saying, I am very happy to see that many service providers are now inviting companies to reflect on what they want to achieve before approaching them. The last 5 years, I remember hearing providers proposing and sometimes selling solutions at a very early stage of development. It takes a while as the providers will be more and more evaluated on how reliable and reasonable they are when offering their products. That's a compliment.
Yes.
And a question about business case. What about business case evaluation after project go live? We see a lot of business cases and rarely or not at all reality picture to reflect on what was planned versus how it is and how to close that gap.
I think I'll take that one. I think it goes into what I was trying explaining a little earlier before on the agreed and success criteria that we try to have prior to the implementation starting, and then by day one, measuring that against the output from the steady state. So I think that's also something that everyone is in their mind right now. not to just promise something and then we go live, everyone goes out, and we don't measure anymore. Now, I think it's very important that things are measured from day one. There is a stabilization period. We strive to reach the metrics. If we're not achieving them, we have to do an RCA, understand if there's anything left out. But I think that's something that it is in everyone's mind right now, and we're doing that.
So I think it's a fair point that once people do the business case, who goes back and looks at it and evaluates it the next year? Who's got the money to pay somebody to do that? You don't need the money to have an analyst do that anymore. You can just have AI do that. You can set up some kind of calculation and have the AI calculate the variable, get the inputs and the data in, have the AI calculate the variable, and get the report out of the platform. So that's something that we should be able to handle, any one of us up here. But I'll give you another idea. Why don't you ask if you have a BPO provider, why don't you ask them to do the calculation and give it to you for free, because they're the one who are actually doing the work in, behind the scenes on the disputes, and they're saving the money by employing less people, and they're probably not giving you the benefit of that. So maybe get them to do the follow-up on the business case. It doesn't take much. If you just get the inputs right up front, it's easy to define the business model. But that's why we're also working to kind of come up with a fair assessment. Let's not forget about customer dissatisfaction. Let's not just focus on cost reduction. Let's talk about working capital as well, and saving interest expense that you would be spending otherwise. And we need to use those kinds of words in the business case to make sure that everybody has a holistic way.
I think just one final thing for me. The wash-up, nobody likes doing a wash-up because once it's implemented, it's done, it's running, but really simple snapshots, are you collecting cash with it? Does your DSO come down? What's the tail end of your ledger like? The tail end of the ledger, greater than 180 debt, what was that this time last year? You don't need anything, you don't need analysts to do that. So where were we, where are we? Because the business case would have proven, that yes, this is a value. So all you do is take a snapshot where you were this time last year. Wasn't the guy from the key font business, he had one metric on his phone, which was how much cash I got at the bank this time now compared to this time last year. So something really, really simple. And from a credit perspective, it's the tail end of your ledger. Are you getting cash quicker? It's the tail end of your ledger.
Okay, I think we'll have to call it a day there, so we are going a little bit over now. Thank you for all the questions. There are many more, so I think we can put them on the app and circulate them, And please, obviously, ask these guys the questions at the stand outside after we finish today. So, gentlemen, thank you very much indeed. It's been an honour working with you. Thank you so much. Okay. So don't go, please don't leave, because now, I believe, Esther's in the hot seat, and it's quiz time, yeah? Yes, it's quiz time, so don't run off, don't go anywhere. So now we're going to see if you've been doing your homework. You may return to your seats now, gentlemen. Thank you so much. Thank you. So yeah, thank you again. Thanks so much.